If you love ghost stories, folklore, and all things mysterious, you need to make a trip to Haunted in downtown Tullahoma, Tennessee. Just a short drive from Nashville, this family-owned Gothic shop is filled with the strange, unusual, and downright fascinating. This isn't a big box store full of mass-produced decorations. Haunted specializes in handmade curiosities, Gothic decor, metaphysical supplies, green witchcraft essentials, and unique pieces created by independent artists. Whether you're decorating or just looking for something you won't find anywhere else, Haunted is worth the trip. Visit them on 125 West Lincoln Street in Tullahoma, or shop online at hauntedstore.net. That's right, hauntedstore.net. Haunted, curated for the strange and unusual. Welcome back to Southern Ghost Stories. I'm the American historian, Alan Sircy. Now, right off the top, I just gotta tell you guys thank you. As you probably know, I think I mentioned it, I joined the iHeart family back in April. And ever since then, man, the show has exploded. New listeners and downloads have doubled since last October. And it's only going to keep getting bigger. But anyway, I just want to take a moment, say thank you. I started the show back in 2019 with my wife, kind of just for fun, but it's turned into something a whole lot bigger. So, yeah, thanks, guys. Anyway, are you guys ready to get started? If you ever wondered the narrow streets of Key West, Florida, you probably noticed the place seems to exist in a world of its own. It's a place where chickens roam freely through downtown streets, where sunsets are celebrated like holidays, and where stories seem to linger in the salty ocean air. But among all the colorful bars, historical homes, and tourist attractions, there's one place that stands apart from the rest. A place where pirates may still roam. A place where the dead may never have left. A place where history and hauntings have become so intertwined that it's nearly impossible to separate fact from legend. This is a story of Captain Tony's Saloon, and the ghost said to call it home. Located on Greene Street in the heart of Old Town Key West, Captain Tony's Saloon doesn't immediately look like one of the most haunted buildings in America. At first glance, it appears to be exactly what you'd expect from a famous Florida Keys watering hole. Weathered wood, hanging decorations, dollar bills pinned to the walls, tourists sipping cold drinks, and musicians playing island tunes, old Jimmy Buffett songs. But beneath the laughter and music lies a much darker history. The building itself dates back to either 1851 or 1852, making it one of the oldest surviving structures in Key West. And from the very beginning, it seems death was never far away. Originally, the building served as an old icehouse. Now, that may not sound particularly sinister today, but in the mid-1800s, ice was a valuable commodity, especially in tropical Key West. Before refrigeration, massive blocks of ice were shipped south from northern states and stored in heavily insulated buildings. Ships entering the busy harbor relied on these ice houses to preserve food and other cargo. The structure would eventually become Captain Tony's, was one of these buildings. But the cold interior would soon serve another purpose, a much grimmer one. During the 19th century, Key West was one of the busiest ports in America. The island sat along major shipping routes, and disasters at sea were tragically common. When hurricanes struck or ships wrecked on nearby reefs, bodies often washed ashore. With no morgue available, the old icehouse became a temporary resting place for the dead. The same cold rooms that preserved food and cargo were used to preserve human remains. Victims of shipwrecks, victims of hurricanes, victims of disease, victims of accidents. Countless bodies passed through the building over the decades. Imagine that scene, the island battered by a storm, families waiting desperately for news. In the darkness of the old icehouse, rows of unidentified bodies awaiting burial. Many people believe those early years left a permanent mark on the property. If walls could absorb pain and sorrow, This building has plenty of both. As Key West evolved, so did the building. The old icehouse eventually became a telegraph office. Later, it served as a cigar factory. Then it became a speakeasy during Prohibition. Each era added another layer to its already rich history. Yet perhaps its most famous chapter began in the 1930s. Back then, the building it housed a legendary bar known as Sloppy Joe's, and one of its most famous customers was none other than author Ernest Hemingway. By the time Hemingway arrived in Key West, he was already becoming one of America's most celebrated writers. Born in Illinois in 1899, Hemingway he worked as a journalist before serving as an ambulance driver during World War I. His experiences during the war profoundly shaped his writing and helped establish the sparse, direct literary style that would later make him famous. Through the 1920s, he traveled extensively, living in Paris and mingling with a generation of writers and artists who became known as the Lost Generation. Works such as The Sun Also Rises and A Farewell to Arms cemented his reputation as one of the most important literary voices of his time. In 1928, Hemingway moved to Key West. The island suited him perfectly. He loved fishing. He loved drinking. And perhaps most of all, he loved collecting stories from colorful local characters. Naturally, he became a regular at Sloppy Joe's. Many accounts claim Hemingway spent countless afternoons and evenings inside the old building swapping stories with fishermen, sailors, wreckers, and drifters. And according to Florida lore, portions of his 1937 novel To Have and Have Not were even written while sitting inside that bar. Whether that's entirely true or not hardly really matters. Hemingway's presence forever became part of the building's identity. And he wasn't the last famous figure to leave his mark there. Years later, another future legend arrived. You see, there's a struggling musician. His name was Jimmy Buffett. Long before it became synonymous with tropical escapism and sold-out stadium tours, Jimmy Buffett was playing small venues throughout Key West. Captain Tony's became one of his favorite places. The bar appears in his songs. Its colorful patrons inspired his stories. Even after achieving worldwide fame, Buffett frequently returned to visit. The old building had become a gathering place for dreamers, drifters, artists, fishermen, politicians, smugglers, and those seeking adventure. But while famous visitors added glamour to its reputation, darker legends continued to grow, especially the story surrounding a tree standing right in the middle of the bar. Walk into Captain Tony's today and you'll see it immediately, just right off the bat. A large chinaberry tree rises through the center of the building. At first glance, it seems unusual, maybe even a bit charming. But local lore suggests the tree has witnessed more death than perhaps any other landmark in Key West. Now, according to the legend, more than 80 people were hanged from its branches during the early 19th century. Some stories claim pirates met their end there. Others say murderers and criminals were executed beneath its limbs. Historical records vary, and exact numbers are difficult to verify. But there's little doubt that public executions occurred in early Key West. And that tree became forever linked with those grim events. And the legend, it grows even darker. Many believe some of the executed people were buried nearby, perhaps even directly beneath what is now Captain Tony's Saloon. If true, generations of patrons have spent their evenings drinking and laughing directly above forgotten graves. Well, then came an astonishing discovery. During renovations in the 1980s, workers uncovered an old gravestone beneath the floor. The marker belonged to a young woman named Elvira Edmonds. The inscription reveals she had died in 1822, decades before the building itself was built. Suddenly, stories about hidden graves no longer seemed so impossible. Who was Elvira? No one knows for sure, but local legends quickly filled in the blanks. Some claim she had been hanged on the property. Others insisted she died under mysterious circumstances. Regardless of the truth, finding a grave marker beneath the floor only fueled speculation that the site had long been associated with death. And perhaps something else. Something that never left. Of all the spirits reportedly haunting Captain Tony's, none is more famous than the Lady in Blue, According to the lore, she was a woman whose life ended in tragedy. One version of the story claims she murdered her husband. Afterwards, she attempted to flee Key West and escape justice. She never got the chance. Instead, she was captured and dragged to the hanging tree, and there her life came to an end. But according to countless stories, her spirit remained behind, watching, waiting, lingering among the shadows of the old bar. One of the strangest encounters came from Captain Tony Terracino himself. Born in 1916, Tony was a larger-than-life figure. He was a charter boat captain, a businessman, entertainer, and eventually mayor of Key West. He embodied the colorful spirit of that island. In 1968, he purchased the old bar and renamed it Captain Tony's Saloon. Not long afterward, he had an experience he would never forget. One evening, after the bar had closed, Tony noticed a young woman standing inside the building. She wore a blue dress. Thinking she'd slipped inside after hours, Tony approached her. He was going to tell her to leave. But before he could reach her, she vanished right in front of him. She didn't walk away. She didn't duck behind a corner. She vanished completely. Tony later mentioned the encounter to a bartender, and that's when he learned something surprising. Other employees there at the bar had seen her too. The mysterious woman in blue was already considered a resident ghost of the establishment. Years later, a former bartender, Misty Brown, she had a similar experience. When she first started working Captain Tony's in the late 90s, she says Tony told her the building was haunted. But Tony was known for spinning elaborate stories, so she didn't take the warning seriously. At least not at first. Then one night after closing, she was finishing her duties before heading home. The bar was quiet, the customers were gone, and she believed she was alone. Suddenly, she noticed a woman standing near the bar. The figure wore a blue dress. Misty assumed someone had wandered in by mistake. But when she glanced away and looked back, that woman was gone. No sound, no footsteps, no opening door, nothing. Misty immediately checked the entrances. Every door was locked. She insists she saw exactly what she thought she saw. And after that night, she no longer laughed at the ghost stories. Yet the lady in blue is far from the only strange occurrence reported at Captain Tony's. Employees have described hearing footsteps in empty areas of the building. Patrons have reported feeling sudden cold spots despite the warm Florida climate. Some claim they've heard whispers when nobody was nearby. Others have watched lights flicker for no apparent reason. Objects, like glasses, forks, spoons, have moved on their own. Strange shadows have appeared when no one was standing, and more than a few visitors have left convinced they were being watched. Paranormal investigators who've been in the building believe the building's long history may explain the activity. Think about everything happened there. It was a morgue, executions, burials, disasters, death, and more than 170 years of human emotion packed into a single tiny structure. If any place could retain echoes of the past, perhaps it's Captain Tony's. Today, Captain Tony's Saloon remains one of Key West's most beloved landmarks. Tourists come for the history, for the music, for the connection to Ernest Hemingway and Jimmy Buffett, for the stories of pirates and smugglers, and perhaps if they're lucky, or unlucky depending on your vantage point, they get a glimpse of something they can't explain. Maybe the lady in blue still walks among the tables after closing time. Maybe the spirits of the hang still linger near that old tree in the middle of the building. Or maybe the countless stories have simply become part of the building's mythology. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain. Few places in America can claim a history as strange, colorful, and as haunted as Captain Tony's Saloon. And in Key West, where the line between fact and legend has always been blurred, the ghosts seem perfectly content to keep their secrets. For now. If you want to learn more about haunted places in Florida, check out my book, Ghost Stories from Graveyard Tales, Florida. Ghost stories from Pensacola, the old lighthouse, all the way down to Key West, Captain Tony's. Haunted lighthouses, grave robbing, man. It's a fun book. And don't forget, my new book, Pistols of Red River, it's available now. Grab a copy at Amazon. I've mentioned it before. It's Andrew Jackson, the dueling story. It's done really well. It's a crazy true story by Andrew Jackson back in 1806, defending his wife's honor on the dueling grounds. Anyway, we're trying to reach 150 Apple Podcast reviews and 100 Spotify reviews before Halloween. If you've enjoyed the show, take 45 seconds to leave a review, and those help more than people realize and help people discover the show. Apple uses ratings and reviews to decide which shows to recommend, and a quick review helps people who love folklore and ghost stories find the podcast. Speaking of which, I'll be in Knoxville, Tennessee, July 31st through August 2nd for CreepyCon. It's one of the largest horror conventions in Tennessee. I'll be there signing books in the Southern Ghost Stories booth. You'll also see icons of horror like Kane Hodder, Bill Moseley. It's going to be a whole lot of fun, and if you want free tickets, I'm giving a pair away. All you got to do is leave a review of the podcast and send a screenshot over to southernghoststories@gmail.com. I'll pick a winner from a hat, and I'll announce it here on the podcast. And a good friend of mine is also going to be at CreepyCon, Ben from Monster City Madhouse. MonsterCityMadhouse.com, and they got a whole bunch of cool, creepy, vintage Halloween shirts. Have you guys been to MonsterCityMadhouse.com? The new Creature from the Black Lagoon shirt's a whole lot of fun. Who says monsters can't have a work-life balance? The Lagoon Life shirt celebrates everyone's favorite gill man living his best swamp life with his family. Whether he's teaching the kids to do the backstroke or just vibing by the lagoon, this vintage cotton polyester blend tee proves that even creatures from the deep deserve a tropical vacation. Perfect for horror fans who appreciate a little domestic bliss, monster style. Don't forget to use promo code SAVE10 to get 10% off your order. That's right, you go to MonsterCityMadhouse.com, type in promo code SAVE10, get 10% right off your order. So, yeah, you can't really beat that. And also, be sure to follow Southern Ghost Stories on Facebook and Instagram. And you can send me questions for future Q&As to southernghoststories@gmail.com. Love doing the Q&As, love interacting with you guys. I've got a handful of questions lined up that I didn't get to for the last Q&A, but I'll get to those here probably another month or so. Anyway, I know it's dog days of summer. October is going to be here soon, so no one's looking forward to it more than me. Thanks for listening to Southern Ghost Stories. I'm Alan Sircy, the American Historian. I'll see you guys soon. If you love ghosts, cryptids, UFOs, and everything that goes bump in the night, then mark your calendars for the West Kentucky Paranormal Expo, happening September 26th in Mayfield, Kentucky at the Mayfield Graves County Fairgrounds. This incredible one-day event brings together some of the biggest names in the paranormal community, including Aaron G. Thompson from Netflix's 28 Days Haunted, Jimmy and Jeffrey from Outlaw Paranormal, The Wind of Rose, Josh Morris, Michael Huntington, Rachel Ravensville, and many, many more special guests and speakers. Your admission is just $15, and that gets you an all-day come-and-go wristband so you can explore at your own pace, browse more than 35 vendors, enjoy delicious food trucks, attend speaker presentations and panels, meet investigators, hear incredible stories, and dive into the worlds of hauntings, cryptids, UFOs, and the unexplained. Whether you're a seasoned ghost hunter or just curious about the mysteries that surround us, there's something for everyone at the West Kentucky Paranormal Expo. Tickets are on sale now. For more information, visit West Kentucky Paranormal Expo on Facebook and get ready for one of the most exciting paranormal events of the year. We'll see you in Mayfield on September 26th. Monster City Madhouse, a year-round online store full of Halloween and classic horror shirts with an emphasis on the vintage look. Use code SAVE10 for 10% off your order. MonsterCityMadhouse.com. Free shipping and financing is available.